Saturday night. I sit here writing on my notepad because my 8-month-old cat chewed straight through my laptop's AC adapter. This is interesting because I can't remember the last time that I sat down and actually wrote down my thoughts, pen to paper. Well, sober at least. Consistently, my thoughts have been digitized, words broken down to pixels, broken down to numbers. It's funny because my words have to be the only kind of math that never add up. I mean, sure, you can make summations and quantify, but my words and thoughts never have one answer to any specific equation, instead lying in the quantum of probabilities. And I do mean probabilities and not possibilities, because anything is possible, but not everything is probable. And when they tell you that for each closed door another one opens, what they don't explain is that each door locks from the outside and you can never go back. And now I choose each thought, each word in terror, which is why I prefer typing since I can go faster, don't have to think as much. But here, each mistake is final, or at the very least, a big blot of crossed out scribbles. And so I go out for a night. I decide that there needs to be more words in my ethereal chronicle, my destiny with no destination. And so I base the night on a song, one of my favorites. One bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. I think I'll make a theme of it, bar hop each round. The first bar is crowded with young men and women, about my age but better looking. I order my round and tell the bartender it's based on the song. He doesn't know it. Drink the bourbon, drink the scotch. Waitress tells me I'm in the way and asks me to move, as I sip on my beer and observe. I look to my right and see a packed table of men and women, specifically 6 men and 4 women, disproportional in the wrong way. I look to my left and see 2 women sitting at a table next to each other talking. Now, sitting next to each other could be purposeful, as to invite male bystanders such as myself. However, I decide I'm not quite drunk enough yet for conversation with strangers, finish my beer, and head to the next bar. I enter and see a couple of middle-aged men. 2 cute girls, a blonde and a brunette, at the far end of the bar, are watching a group of young guys at the pool table, or rather are attempting to get the young guys to watch them. I sit down and order my round. The bartender says, "Oh, like the song." The guy next to me is another guy named John. He's overweight and just turned 52 yesterday. He sends a drink to the girls at the end of the bar, as I place my face into my bourbon, hoping they don't think the bartender's finger is pointing at me. Again, not drunk enough yet. John tells me that he's an engineer and has lived here for 15 years. Bill, the ex-cop, comes over and says I remind him of Elvis, not the king of rock, but the guy who had a room in his apartment specifically dedicated to old Playboy magazines and had a quadruple-digit bar tab that stopped him from going here in 2003. Billy tells me about John and Elvis, tells me about running down kids with guns while on the force. I finish my scotch, start on my beer, and begin to feel at home. At last, I am drunk enough to approach a woman. I talk to the blonde, not because I'm a gentleman, but because she has a lip ring and Ninja Turtle shirt, and I feel we have things to talk about. I feel I am doing well. She called me an asshole. I don't remember why, but it probably had something to do with the muscular tan guy whom I had interrupted her conversation with. So I begin talking with the brunette, and the 3 guys gathered around her. I don't recall what we spoke of. Something about music. One guy air guitars and explains to me that when you see guys air guitaring like this, he gestures with his fingers, they probably legit know how to play. The world is hazy now, and I start to think about my day. A coworker of mine had shown me a YouTube video about a guy who gets kisses from women after asking 3 questions. Before I know it, I'm asking the group if they've seen this video. I explain, so this guy goes up to the girls and says, 1, do you find me attractive? 2, do you have a boyfriend? And 3, so what's stopping you from kissing me right now? And before they can answer the last question, he just kisses them. As I say this, the blonde gives an overdramatic scream. I think she's being funny, so I laugh and ask, so did you think that's creepy or awesome? The guy sitting in front of me says, "It's not going to be so awesome if you laugh in my ear again." I say, "What? I laughed in your ear? I'm sorry, man." He looked at his friend and says, "Hey, tell this guy what's going to happen in 2 seconds." And so I asked the friend, and I still can't believe I did this, "What's going to happen in 2 seconds?" The guy says, "Step outside and you'll find out." As the friend explains that I was hitting on this guy's girl, the blonde. I point out that everyone's hitting on her, but that doesn't make the situation better, which leads to the friend forcing the guy to leave with him. As they walk out, I ask the girl, "Was that your boyfriend?" She says no, but that I had really creeped her out with those questions. And I try to explain to her that I wasn't actually asking the questions, but wanted to know if they thought it was creepy, because I think it's creepy. And I don't think she believes me, so I finish my beer, shake John's hand, say goodbye to Billy, and exit the bar. I consider a third round, but realize the world now looks like a dream and not in a Shakespearean sort of way. I head back to my apartment, open the door, hear a garbled cat-like wail, and assume I must have stepped on his tail. I feel bad, but at the same time feel a bit of justice for him chewing on my cord. I throw up a couple of times, in the toilet, no muss, no fuss, sit down and wait for my roommates to come home. They give me some Alka-Seltzer and promptly send me to bed. And so I finish this, a night full of choices that don't amount to anything but some pen on paper and smudged ink on the side of my hand. Alright, so this is John, Axel, and Dom from NYC Geek Society. And so I just read one of my poems from my book, Let's Go for a Walk, by Jonathan Sean Cherlin. You can purchase it on Amazon.com. I also have a link to it actually on our website, nycgeeksociety.com, so you can find it there. And so we're going to do something a little bit different, or try something a little bit different. Axel here is going to interview me about my poem, and we're going to try to make it a little bit more structured than our previous episodes.
Yeah, loosely structured.
Loosely structured.
More structured than ever before.
A little more structured.
Well, we had no structure, so.
So, Axel is one of my best friends. He is also a friend of Dominic's as well.
Just a regular friend, I guess.
No, we're best friends. I used to work with John
at
Dom and Tom at one point, and that's how we got to know each other, and now we do open mics sometimes and watch Die Hard.
And we live down the block from each other, so we see each other all the time.
Yep.
So that's who Axel is, and now you may interview me.
Okay.
That is who Axel is. He's a guy that exists and lives down the block from me.
Well, this poem in particular, it kind of feels like a dream where you have these characters, like the girls at the bar and the guys you talk to, what was it, that guy with the porn cave?
Yeah.
All feels like sort of a dream. And as this day is happening, does it feel that way to you? Like, does it feel like you're kind of in a dream state?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because as you know, we've discussed on the podcast before too, that I have a disorder called depersonalization, derealization disorder, where kind of everything does feel like a dream. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's kind of hard for me to answer that question, because like everything feels like a dream to me. But I wonder now that you say that.
But didn't you say this was based on reality?
Yeah, this really happened. Like, basically, this was a Saturday night. Obviously, that's the title of the poem. In 2013, and I had plans to meet up with an old friend of mine who still lived on Long Island. And he was going to come up to Astoria, and we hadn't seen each other or talked in a while, and so we were just going to bar hop together. And then he canceled on me last minute, and so I was just going to be alone.
Okay.
So I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to go out anyway. And
that's like the prequel to the story. I didn't know.
Yeah, you didn't know about the prequel.
And so I had this idea. I had this idea for a while that, you know, one of my favorite songs is by George Thorogood, and it's one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to like try to like
live it?
Yeah, actually do that. And I didn't realize that that's a lot of alcohol, first of all. So that's why I only got through 2 rounds. But, yeah, so I just decided to go by myself. And, you know, I detailed it exactly how it happened. I think I remember when I was at the bar, I was writing some stuff, like taking down notes. But if I remember correctly, I don't think I actually wrote everything down until the next day. Because when I got home, I was, like, sick, you know? Like, as I say in the poem.
So this was only half written.
Yeah, like, I had taken some notes while I was at the bars of just ideas in my head. And then the next day, I wrote it in my notebook. And what was interesting, like, for a while, whenever I would perform the poem, which was rare because it's a long poem, so I usually would go over the open mic's time limit. But when it didn't, and I would perform it, you know, because I ended saying that all I have is, like, smudged ink on the side of my hand.
I love that.
And I used to, because I used to just hold up my hand, like, or at least the first time, because, like, there was still smudged ink when I first performed. I think, actually, I performed it a day or two after, like, or maybe the next day after I wrote it. And I still had, like, the ink on my hand. So I showed it. And so, like, then even though it wasn't there, whenever I would perform it, I would still, like, raise my hand like that. And I only had it on the written out part. I didn't type it up for years. And then, like, because I thought that was kind of cool, because I talk about it in the poem that this is written into paper. So I thought it would be weird to have, like, a printed out copy of it or something on my phone. But it was getting so, like, deteriorated and hard to read. And I'm like, this is going to fall apart. Like, I should type it up.
So you're going to leave, like, the original in the book instead of the typed up version? I mean, that would have been pretty cool to have, like the smudge.
Photocopy it?
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been completely illegible if I did that. I think, actually, I did think about something like that. Because our friend Richie, his book is like that, where he has, like, handwritten stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been completely illegible, because my handwriting is horrible. But yeah, like, what I was going to say about it feeling like a dream, I wonder if maybe you pick up on that, because maybe that's just the way I write it, because that's the way I perceive it.
Maybe.
So maybe, because I always preface this poem, I didn't this time, saying, this is, like, the closest I've ever gotten to just articulating a slice of my life. Like, this poem, I feel like, represents what it feels like to be me on a daily basis. Like, good intentions, trying to do things, and then, like, somehow being misunderstood, or, you know, like,
it seemed like
the
the night was going better and worse at the same time. Like, the bartender was starting to, at first didn't know the song, and then the second one did.
Yeah.
And then you were able to talk to the girl at the end.
But then,
in the beginning you weren't.
And I felt at home at the bar, but I ended up with people that actually... I can't believe I didn't get fucking punched in the face. Like, it was weird, because it was one of those situations where afterwards I remembered saying that stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck was wrong with me? Like,
well, if they were any of those, like, if those were actually the boyfriend, you probably would have gotten punched in the face.
But that was the thing. It was just like, I've realized this, and my friends have realized this too, is that when I drink, I just become, like, innocent. Like, I feel like everyone's my friend. And, like, so I don't think, like, that part of me that has, like, oh, people might want to hurt me, or, like, don't want to talk to me.
Didn't you say
I feel like that's an amplified version of yourself.
Didn't you say something like that in the poem that you read today, the open mic, like, somewhere where everybody knows your name or something like that?
Oh, yeah, I mean...
Is that like a callback to Cheers?
Well, not kind of. No, but in that poem I was talking about that, you know, kind of the anachronistic comparison of, like, when I was younger and I had a lot of friends, and, like, specifically when I was in high school, there was a time where after school we would all hang out at this pizza place right next to the high school. And I remember walking in there once, and literally the whole pizza place was filled, and it was all my friends. Like, it was all people I knew and knew me. And then to, like, now, or at least then, living in Astoria, just being alone in my apartment, nobody knows me, you know, like.
Well, do you feel like your brain goes back to that as like default when you get drunk? You're like, oh yeah, I know everybody here. They're all my friends. Like,
maybe, but I think it comes from a part of me that just wants everybody to be my friend. Like,
that's what I mean. Your brain is like, yeah.
Because like that's the thing. Like naturally, I'm a person that really loves people. Like, that's something Axel and I have in common. Dom is a little less...
I'm the complete opposite. I usually don't like people.
But I love people, but I'm also terrified of people. And I guess when I drink, the terrified part goes away.
Yeah, that's all.
Throw caution to the wind.
So I forget that not necessarily everyone loves me, you know?
Yeah, man.
So you went into this night kind of with trouble on your mind going into it.
I don't know.
Was it like sort of intentional that this all was happening, or?
I didn't know if it was trouble on my mind. It was just that.
You had that song in your head.
Yeah, I mean, I love that song, but it was just more of like I had gone through a stint of just being kind of stood up by friends, you know, and like I said, I was still in that mode, you know. I'd been living in New York City for over a year. But I didn't really have a lot of friends, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was just like, at that point of, I can't just spend another night alone, another Saturday night alone in my apartment, you know? Like, I need to go out and do something. But I wasn't at the maturity in my life to be able to, like, just do that sober. You know, like, I didn't know how to do that.
Or you didn't want to, you know. Yeah. It's also that.
Yeah, but it was just
Sometimes
like, I was too nervous. Like, even like with like the first round, I even talk about, or, you know, that I wasn't drunk enough to like talk to anybody yet. You know, let alone a girl or woman, you know, or women. But then the irony of that is that once I am drunk enough to do that, I'm kind of not all there. So, kind of defeats the purpose, you know?
Yeah. But at least you had the courage to talk to the last one.
But I just said stupid stuff.
Liquid courage.
Well, yeah, what's the next question?
Next question.
Do these people feel like characters to you when you're observing them? Like, what is it, like, you were observing those girls at the bar, right, that were looking at the other guys, and you're kind of just imagining these scenarios. I found that kind of interesting.
Well,
do you see, like, a story unfolding before your eyes, kind of?
Two things come to mind when you say that. So, number one, I feel like probably everyone says this, but I do legitimately feel this about myself. I think that I'm good at reading people and reading body language specifically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when I have these ideas, I at least feel like that they're right, and more often than not, if I ask people about it or talk to them, it does end up being right. So I got an impression that these women were really trying to get the attention of like the guys at the pool table, you know? Not intentionally getting the attention of the guy in his 50s at the other end of the bar. But, you know, I think you actually asked me this question, Axel. You know, maybe half joking around, but I've thought about it, where you've asked me, do you feel like you're the main character in your own story?
Huh.
And I've thought about that recently, and my answer is strangely no.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm like the narrator of the story, but the story's not about me. That's how I feel like my life
That's really
is.
interesting. You think of the narrator. I think I'm like a supporting character.
Like, for example, like in Sherlock Holmes, you know, Watson's writing the story. He's the character writing the story, but the main character of those stories is Sherlock Holmes, you know?
Yeah, but the narrator is somebody totally different. We were talking about that with Audrey, like the omnipotence.
Right, but that's what I feel like. I feel
then you're like all-knowing and all-seeing.
No, because I don't feel that. I just feel like
you're just telling people what's going on.
That I'm the
like
one
sort of
here
narrator.
to witness the story happening. And
you're seeing the big picture.
Document it,
yeah.
There's another thing you told me where you were like, oh, imagine yourself, but in a top-down view. And you're just like looking at everyone kind of moving around and how it's just like one big organism.
The Sims.
So, well, I kind of like that, yeah. But I
you just see like a diamond thing on top of everybody's head.
What Axel's talking about though is I've started doing like a year or two ago. Like I had this idea of like when I'm having an anxiety attack or like feeling like too close in, like, or in my head rather, too in my head, I say to myself in my head, like, zoom out. And so then, like, for example, let's say I'm on, like, the subway in New York City, you know, one of the subways. And so, like, I'm starting just in my head, like, and I have all these thoughts and all this paranoia, and I'll be like, zoom out, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm paying attention to everyone in the train car. And then it's like, zoom out further, and it's like, oh, you know, there's the entire train, and zoom out further, there's an entire city, and then there's the entire country, and then there's the planet, and the galaxy, and the universe.
You're just a little dot.
Yeah.
You're a little speck.
But then, like, what's interesting is, like, let's say I'm walking down the street and doing that, and I zoom out, and I start to feel, or I start to see how, like, all the people, and the traffic, and, like, all this stuff, they're all moving, but it almost feels like a ballet of sort, or like it's one organism. Mm-hmm. And it makes me feel like, it reminds me that I'm just a part of something. Like, just like, I'm just like a cell in the entire organism, you know? And it makes me feel better. It makes me feel like I am a part of something. It's not just me.
So you're just... Oh, go ahead.
You go.
So you're just like a small part of this story that you're kind of creating. Or making up.
It?
I don't know.
Or am I observing?
Well,
it feels like I'm observing it.
Perceiving it. What you're perceiving.
What do you think? Do you think I'm creating it, or am I... It feels like I'm perceiving...
But what is...
I feel like you're seeing things, but making up the story behind it.
What is causing your, like, initial, like, freak out or whatever?
I mean, it could be anything.
Because that's the thing, like, how does feeling like part of the city or whatever solve that? Because I feel like if that was me, just, like, widening the scope to seeing more stuff would just make me freak out even more.
Because I think that a lot of my anxiety... I talked about this actually at Richie's, spoken word thing the other day. Of like, that, you know, I have anxiety and depression, but I had this funny thought when I was going over there, think about it, like, for example, when I was going to do this spoken word thing, I'm like, oh man, I already told them that I'm going to be late, but I hate being late, and people are going to be disappointed, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and all that stuff, and I counteract that with thinking, but don't worry about it, man, like, you're not that important. But then if I think too much about I'm not that important, then I'm going to get depressed. It's like, it's almost like the depression is to counteract the anxiety.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of funny, but like, that actually does relax me. Like, I think the core of my anxiety comes from feeling like all of the things going on in my life are so fucking important, you know? And so when I do that zoom out thing, it's like, no, it's not. It's just, you're just one tiny part of, like, this whole.
But you can't be too unimportant.
Right.
That's scary, too.
Yeah.
I'm insignificant.
Yeah, because I do the complete opposite of that. Like, when I get overwhelmed by, like, stuff around and stuff, I have to just, like, zoom into myself. And I'm like, all right, what is there that I can control? Like, what I'm looking at and my breath. Like, if I get to my breath, and I'm like, okay, control your breath, like, figure out, breathe in, breathe out. Like, once I get to that point, I'm like, all right, that's all that matters right now. Like, that's all I need to focus on to, like, live. Like, breathing. And everything else, like, shuts down. And
Seems
once, like, you get to a mode where your brain is like, okay, breathing, like, regular, okay, calm, breathing, then you can open back up and be like, all right, now I can deal with this other stuff. Now that I'm not, like, in freak out mode. Like...
Seems like you're more meditative.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, I'm distracting myself. Like, as soon as I feel like shit, I feel like I have to go running. I have to go to the gym.
No, yeah, I do that too, but that like once you get all that energy out, I feel like that's a different way to get the energy out, because it's like that anxious energy that you don't know what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that sort of like speaks to how we are, because you're really active, so you would channel that energy through like being active. I kind of like being calm and meditative, so I like breathe. And John is a thinker, so you're just kind of like, all right, zoom out, like let's see every little thing and think about how every little thing is like coming together in this like thing, and like that gets out your energy through like figuring out this and that and that and this and where its place is in there. I feel like that's really cool, because we all stem from that same anxious energy. You're like, oh, I have all this like craziness, like what do I do with it?
What do you do with it? And there's like a story within the story almost. I like how you were talking about like, was it writing it out rather than typing? And
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that
it's
beginning
like,
part.
It all sort of connects.
Yeah.
You have like, I don't know, you're just kind of like stumbling all over the place, and I don't know, I just didn't know about the first part of the poem where you were saying this had to do with was it your friend bailing out on you. So I was curious if, I mean, when you're first writing this poem, like you have that intention of kind of like wrapping it up in the way that you did with like the scribbling.
Yeah, you don't really go back to that.
No, he does with
He goes like
well,
all
at
the
the
way
end.
to the end.
Yeah.
Smudged ink on the side of my hand, but it's not like as deep as you were in the beginning. Because this is one part right here.
Mm.
It's funny because my words have to be the only kind of math that never add up. I'm sure you could make summations and quantify, but my words and thoughts never have one answer to any specific equation, instead lying in the quantum of probabilities. Like, that is so, like, out there to be like, I'm writing down a poem.
But you actually said to me when you were first starting to take notes on this, you said something about it where you got it, that it does add up. Because, like, that's kind of the point. I mean, it doesn't. The point is that it doesn't add up. That this story happens, and I go out there with this intention of experiencing something, finding a story, you know.
Yeah.
But at the end, I end up where I started, you know, and just a little bit sick, you know. And so that's the thing. Like, there are all these possibilities of things happening at the beginning of the night, and probabilities. Even. But at the end, I just kind of end up back at, you know, zero, you know?
Basically, like, nothing you
It's
just
like the
did
whole
matters.
story is a bunch of scribbles.
Exactly, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Except for smudged ink on the side of my hand. That's the only evidence that this happened, you know?
That's cool. I like that. And now I choose each thought, each word in terror.
Yeah, which again kind of ties into what I'm talking about. That I'm always overthinking everything. And then when I'm at the point where I'm not overthinking it, then I almost get punched in the face. You know, so it's like, where do you need find that balance, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think I'm better at now, 5 years later. At least better.
I feel like I've been in that same spot, like where you just have a night that's empty and you want to fill it with like something memorable, or to be able to say that you've done something. So you're just like, all right, let me just go.
Just gonna keep going until something shitty
Yeah.
happens.
Let's just go until I can't go anymore, or until I end up back at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because my friend Cal always made fun of me because I had already learned a little bit of this lesson years before this poem, that when I was in college, I would, you know, be bored, and then, like, I'd be like, well, you know what? I'm just going to get drunk, and something's going to happen. And then nothing would ever happen. Now I'm just drunk and bored.
You would get drunk in your house?
No, when I was in college, I would just, like, get drunk and
Like
I'm gonna,
in your dorm?
Yeah, and I just walk around campus. I would just walk around campus, like, because, you know, there would be parties going on. You would walk into parties.
Hey, what about this? Like, you're, like, a really good character in somebody else's story.
Yeah.
Like, hey, remember that random drunk guy that just walked in and just left? Like, like in your story's boring, but everybody else's story, like, who was that guy? Where did he come from? Why was he so drunk?
I would totally do that because it would be just like we had like on-campus apartments at Purchase College.
Yeah.
And so you would just like go over to the apartments and like the door would be open, there'd be a party going on. I'd just go in, get some alcohol for free.
God, I missed that whole experience, dude.
But
That's too much.
Although I did have a night like you did, except like completely different. Where
Did you get laid?
No.
Oh man.
But I went to like a strip club.
Oh,
Whoa, strip club. And I had like the worst time ever.
oh man,
And
I had an experience like that.
With every word, it gets better.
And like after my lap dance, the woman was like, "The ATM's over there," and I was like, "Oh god,
what?"
Yeah, I was like,
no.
this is like really fucking weird. So then, like the entire night afterward, I'm like, I'm gonna make this the best fucking night of my life. Like, something's gonna fucking happen. So me and my friends end up going to the club, and I end up like drinking so much, and I ended up like making out with 2 girls on the dance floor. I mean, it was cool, but I was kind of like out of my mind at the same time.
It meant nothing.
Yeah.
Filled no voids.
But it felt like, wow, victory. I did something shitty, you know?
I mean, there's something to that to a degree. Like, if I didn't go out, I wouldn't have this story in here. But
You couldn't say you made out with 2 chicks in a row. Now you have that the bro story.
Yeah.
I have the bro story.
now you're
One
a
night-
real man.
One night I went to a strip club and I was like, nah, this sucks. And then I went to another bar and I made out with 2 chicks. Like, that's literally your story right there.
I was just trying to relate.
We've talked about this, that like Axel kind of confuses people because like he's a bro, but he's also like a poet and a musician.
I'm a bro it.
Like we've talked about this. Like the pinnacle of Axel was once he was about to play the guitar. He's like, "Hold on, I gotta put down the guitar. I need to chug this protein shake." I laughed my ass off.
Put the art on hold. My
Gains,
biceps
bro.
need a boost. The buys need a boost. Took it to the gun show. And afterwards made poetry.
What was that?
I don't know. I was doing like classical music.
That was the segue.
Oh.
That was the segue pulling up.
What'd you think of these characters? I just like calling them characters.
You're
Sure.
obsessed with the character.
I am obsessed with the characters.
What
like
do you mean by
Bill,
that?
the ex-cop, and
John
the
the future version of yourself.
God, I hope not. Although it was weird that he was an engineer and I'm a coder.
Yeah.
Well, what do you ask your question again?
What do you think of them?
What do you think of them? Like,
Are they characters or people?
Well,
That's a.
what's your question? Like, what do you mean by that?
I'll go with Dom's question.
No, be more specific. What do I think of them?
I think it's like.
Do you want me to just...
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think I have it fully formed yet.
So, because you're channeling these people into your poem, so are they still the people that you witnessed, or are they what you turned them into? Like, do you still see them, like, when you read it back, like, as who they were, or is it kind of like their ideas of who they were?
I don't remember what they look like.
Just like
the
vague...
cop, I changed his name just because he was... I didn't know at first when I was writing it how much detail I was going to go into because... and I didn't end up putting stuff in the book, and I don't remember it now.
Your social security number.
No. That he was going into like some like shady cop stories. Like, like he was kind of a dirty cop.
Oh.
And he was just like talking about it to me. So I'm like, if I'm gonna write about this guy, maybe I'll just change his name.
He's gonna find you.
No, I don't even remember his real name now. I mean, I never wrote it down.
Can you tell us about the shady cop?
I don't remember now. I just I was fucking drunk. I remembered it the next day, but I don't remember it
I
now.
woke up screaming the next day. Like, the stories!
But, so I guess I purposefully changed him a little bit, just because I changed his name and I left things out. I don't know. What do I think of them? So as characters?
So have they become characters? Like now?
What does that mean, though?
Like, are they still, like how you're saying? Is it still like you being the narrator, or is it you creating these versions of these people? I didn't
create them.
But you're creating a version of them when you're writing it out. So then is it like autobiographical?
No, I think that it's just...
Because I feel like the versions of them are kind of like ideas of them more than like them. So then it would be a sort of character. Seeing as how you changed this entire person.
I didn't change the entire... I changed his name and I left out... I didn't talk about some things that he talked about.
Because I feel like that's the issue that we're on, like, right now. It's like, because John's sort of like, oh, yeah, they're just, like, who I saw and I witnessed, and I'm just putting that on the page. And you're like, but who are they? What are they? Like, what do they mean? And John's like, they're just some people I saw at a bar. Like,
yeah.
Like, they mean nothing.
But I think, like it built that atmosphere, right? It was just like, okay, so...
Or did you, like, pick these people for the poem, or are these just, like,
literally how John lived his life that night and what he saw?
I feel like it's relatable because I feel like, in hindsight, it's probably a common New York City experience, right? Yeah. Where you go into one bar, and it's tons of, like, young people... And I said, like, about my age, but more attractive. Like, everyone looks like a fucking model. Yeah. And the music's really loud. And people are just telling you to you're just in the way.
Yeah.
And...
Where was this, by the
way? Sweet Afton.
Oh, Sweet Afton?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That adds a lot of context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look it up.
And I always forget the name... of the other bar, but it's one of the ones under the elevated train, the L train.
Elevated train.
You know, on 30th Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
But what I was going to say is, like, it's one of those old Irish bars.
Yeah.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
The one like where no one gives a shit about you?
Yeah.
That
yeah,
one?
you and I have been there.
Oh, my God.
That's one where you saw these people?
Part of this happened?
That was the second bar. That's where I met all those people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go.
That bar is really shitty.
It's a dive bar.
Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say...
It's not shitty. It's just a dive bar. It's a neighborhood bar. That's what it is.
It's not shitty. It's just
an old bar with people named John.
But
2 people named John.
But
it's a good shitty bar.
I was gonna say it's just like it's sort of like you go to one bar and it's like these young hip people and like it's just like noise, you know? Like you can't really zone in on many things going on, you know? It's just too much. And then I go to the second bar and like these are people like shit's happened in this bar. Like this has been around a while. You know, these guys, they come there probably like every night, you know? Mm-hmm. They're regulars. Like
that is a Shears bar.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. You know, so it's just like this is where you could find a story because stories have happened here.
Yep.
Like that's what it felt like. And so like I just sat down, I ordered my drinks, the bartender knows what I'm talking about, you know? And he's much more friendly than like the people that were telling me to get the fuck out
and he remembered the song.
Yeah. And so like and then just the guy next to me, he just starts talking to me, you know? And again, like I guess I did what you always say that I do, that I end up interviewing people.
Yep.
You know, so I just probably was asking leading questions that led to him.
I'm surprised he introduced himself to you first. You're usually the one that's always chatty.
I mean,
especially if you're drunk.
I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I think I remember he just started talking, you know. Because again, like, think about it this way. If he's a regular, this is like his place, you know? Like, he probably feels a little bit more comfortable there than I would, you know? And maybe he wants to know who the new guy is, you know? So he just starts talking to me, and he ended up being an engineer over 50 years, and then Bill the cop just comes in, I don't remember his real name, and he's friends with the guy, and so then he says that I look like this guy Elvis, and I'm like, Elvis?
The porn king.
And it was like, yeah, the guy that had a room dedicated to Playboy magazine, and he stopped coming here in 2003 because he owed too much money, and like, it's just like all these details, like, I don't know. You see, that's what's interesting. Like, did I ask for this? I guess I was looking for this. Like,
you were looking for the weird stories.
Yeah, and maybe I was. I don't remember now, but I guess it's likely I was asking leading questions of, like, to hear more of the story. But that's what this bar was. It was like, there's these two older guys that have lived fucking life on one side of the bar, and that's where I'm sitting. And then on the other side are people my age, and it's just like these hipster girls hanging out with like these, trying to get the attention of like these fratty guys at the pool table. And then for some reason I'm thinking I should talk to them. Because like I should hit on a girl. And then I don't know.
That's your nightcap.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I should talk to a girl. But at that point, I'm not even considering that she was talking to this other guy. And then I remembered her calling me an asshole. She's like, oh, she was kind of laughing. She's like, you're an asshole. I'm like, why? And then I turn around and I realized there was this guy there. I'm like, oh, shit. So I didn't put these things together until the next day when I was writing it down. I'm like, that's why she probably called me an asshole. Because when I was walking over there, she was talking to that guy already. Like, what am I thinking? You know, I even wrote in here that they were trying to get attention of these guys, and they got it. And then for some reason, I think it's all right to just stroll right over and butt in.
You were drunk.
I was fucking drunk. Don't drink like 6 drinks.
But you had intention. You needed to end the night somehow. Like on a good note, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't end on a good note. It just
but you tried.
And then like when I was realizing that, you know, I brought up the YouTube video and that they misunderstood what I was doing, and it just became a mess, you know. So I had to leave. But I guess like the feeling is that bar and that environment still exists without me. Like, like 5 years later, if we went back to that bar, we'd probably have a similar experience. Whereas 5 years later, going back to Sweet Afton, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's anything. It's just, it doesn't feel...
A gentrified, like...
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's just a space.
Mm-hmm.
But
would they still be about your age, or do you think it would be younger?
Probably be younger.
So then it would be a different vibe for you.
Yeah, but I feel like
you'd be the John at the bar.
But I feel like that's the thing. I don't feel like there's a story there. You're not gonna get the characters. Yeah, you're just gonna get a bunch of individual groups of friends talking. Where going to the second bar, that was a bar. Like everyone there played a part in that bar, like with each other. You know.
But what would be the difference between the good-looking people at the second bar and the young people at the first bar? Because you thought that the younger people at the second bar were interesting, but not the younger people at the first bar.
I think because
just the
they still knew everybody there. Like, John sent them a drink, so there's an interaction between the two sides.
So he gave them some cred, and you were like, hey, who are these people?
They were talking, I think, to the bartender. You know, like, they were still part of that place, you know? They were... Everyone was interacting with each other to a certain degree. I had gone to that bar another night. I don't remember if it was before this or after this, where another guy tried to start a fight with me randomly. And
maybe
like
it's you, John.
The bartender was just like, "Oh, just ignore him. He tries to start a fight with everybody," and he's like, "Come on, so like just chill out, you know."
So
it's like
you old so and so.
But it's like
What made you want to go to that second bar though? Like, it just seems like such a messy place.
Well, that's the thing. It's just like, it's nice to be in a place where people know each other, you know? Or like I said, it's like...
But you don't know anyone there.
Yeah, but there's people interacting with each other. Like I said, like the bar, everyone in that bar is somehow connecting with each other, you know? Whereas at the first place, it's just individual groups of friends and nobody's talking to each other. There's no cross chatter, you know? It's just a bunch of little microcosms.
Like the top-down view.
Yeah. Where here it was just one organism. You know?
Got any other questions, sir? So...
No, I don't have anything.
You don't have anything?
Yeah.
Alright. So, I was just noticing, like, the way that you were typing this out, you have a lot of parentheses. Is that, like, for you? Because I don't know if that's, like, a recurring thing, but I feel like this one has a lot of parentheses.
I think it was just more of a way of indicating the way I would want to read it out loud, you know? Like, I could say, she called me an asshole, but it probably had something to do with the muscular tan guy.
Like an aside?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She called me an asshole. I don't remember why. You know, that's more of the aside.
Adding context.
Yeah.
Bill, the ex-cop.
Right. But he's really just Bill, I guess.
Not even Bill.
That's
Someone else I don't remember.
At last, I am drunk enough to approach a woman.
At last! Ha ha ha! At last!
I have done it.
Exactly. That's what it felt like. I mean, that's what I remember it feeling. It was like, okay, I can do it now. I'm ready.
I've reached the right level of drunkenness. Time for my night to begin.
Oh, God. That's how it ended.
I talk to the blonde not because I'm a gentleman.
Yeah, because
what does that even mean? Why would you talk to a blonde because you're a gentleman?
You know, there's a famous movie called Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Oh. See, that's where you needed an aside, like the film.
God.
See, that you need the parentheses, right?
I talk to the blonde not because I'm a gentleman, like the film. Can you just edit this entire book for me?
I feel like a lot of people know that already. They
Axel, did you know that?
Nope.
Gotta be an old soul like me.
Old soul.
I got the Ninja Turtle shirt. I would talk to that girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, she seemed interesting.
Turtle shirt.
Yeah.
But then she could have been the type of girl be like, "Hey, do you like Ninja Turtles?" They're like, "What are you talking about?"
Exactly.
Like,
That's
just a shirt.
That's what she ended up being.
I was like,
probably.
"Take that shirt off right now." What? And then you would have got punched in the face.
Yeah.
Right. I was gonna say something else. Let's see. What else was it that I was gonna say about this? Last night I was hanging out with my friend Oscar. We were practicing some songs for the open mic, and afterwards I was like, I wanted to do something. It was Friday night, and I was like, I could stay home and just go to sleep, but it's like 11:30, and I was like, oh, maybe there's still time to do something. So I went out. I walked him like sort of towards where he had to go home, and I was like, I should just go into a bar. So I walked into a bar. They were like doing karaoke or something. And I walked in and I was like, let me just feel it out. Maybe I could just do a song or two. Like, make this night into something. Like we were saying. Yeah. So I walked in. I didn't see anybody I recognized because I've been there a few times before. And like, they were playing some really bad songs. The guy was singing horribly. And I just walked to the back. And then I was like, hey, just go to the bathroom. The bathroom door was locked. And as I was walking out, like, I had, like, my leather jacket on. And some guy was like, hey, it's Fonzie. And I was like, all right, bye. And I just left. And I walked home, and I was just kind of like, this sucks. Like, I'm not doing anything. This night didn't matter. Even though I had just practiced a bunch of songs for an open mic. And I was like, what the hell? Like, why did I have to have that feeling of, like, walking into a bar? Like, yeah, I could have sat down at the bar. Like, kind of what you did. Yeah. Just had a couple of beers. Eventually talked to somebody. But I feel like you have to go at a certain type of time, like, you know. Like, I feel like it was past, like, 11:30. Like, they show up at, like, 12. I feel like that's late. Especially not being drunk at all. It was
Oh,
super
yeah.
awkward. Like everybody was
Everyone's drunk except me.
everybody. That's literally how it felt. I was like, everybody's having so much more fun than me, even though it was just like everybody was really drunk.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was like, what is that feeling that you have to like go out, like you need to do something, like same thing you were saying, like you need to like have that story. Like why? Like what?
I don't know. It's just like an internal
Yeah,
push.
we're pack animals. We want to be around people.
But it wasn't. It's not even about being around people. Like it's about needing a story, needing something to happen.
Yeah, but I think that that's a positive thing. That's a good thing. That urge, anyway. It's just a matter of how you go about it.
Because when I went out, I wasn't caring about like seeing people. I wanted to
what
do something.
What pisses me off a bit is like how much more of a story would there be if I hadn't gotten so fucking drunk? Like if I had talked to like John and Bill and all those people more and didn't. Or even if I went over to talk to the younger people, but I was of sound mind and wasn't doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? Maybe I could have made some friends.
Yeah.
But like, I was under an impression, like, I was so shy still at that point. Like, I felt like I couldn't do it unless I was drunk.
Well, you did really kind of choose a weird thing to talk to them about.
Yeah, well, why would I have talked to them about that?
It was kind of like
so
You
weird.
ever heard of prank invasion?
But that was the thing, because
It
it
was
was
kind of like rapey, John. Like,
well, that's the thing. Like, it was on my mind because it was disturbing to me.
Because it was rapey.
So
you
I was
say
drunk, and so I just say what's on my mind when I'm drunk.
Hey, if I touch your ass, is that kind of rapey? Like, what? You didn't touch my ass? No,
But it
I'm
was
not gonna
just-
touch your
Yeah, I
ass.
think people
I
just
said, what
assume.
if I touch your ass? Nobody cares about the what
It was
if.
really fucking... no, dude. It was fucking creepy. I don't know. It was on my mind because it was creepy. And then I was trying to explain to them, like, isn't that fucking creepy? But then they didn't understand why I was
totally
talking
understand. That's why they were trying to get away from
about it.
you.
Yeah, I was, like, fucking wasted.
You got your answer. Like, yeah, you're really creepy.
Isn't
Like,
that something creepy? It's something I would do.
Isn't that something
Yeah.
creepy that creepy guys do?
Because that's what they're thinking. Most likely.
Exactly, dude. It was, like, so stupid. I'm embarrassed by it, but it was funny. Like, it's funny to talk about afterwards.
So let's see.
Like,
I
what
think
the
there's like
hell
a
is
big elf in the room. Like going to the bar alone.
That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean I find it really cool that you went to a bar by yourself, but I feel like it takes so much energy to
Did you ever
be
do
able
that?
to.
Yeah, you've done that.
Yeah, I've done it plenty of times, but like it usually takes me being alone for like 2 days and it's like, oh shit, I have to like go to a bar, do something, or else I'm gonna go nuts.
Like the only time I've gone to a bar alone is like when I was super depressed and I was just like, I want to get wasted by myself.
So why don't you just do it by yourself then?
Because I wanted to go to a bar.
Well, but maybe
to
that's
see
the thing. You
humans.
didn't want to be by yourself.
Well, I didn't want to just like sit at home with a friggin' bunch of beer. Because that's dumb and gross.
So that's the thing. You don't want to be by yourself.
Well, I wanted to be... Okay, so living... so that's the weird thing. Living in New York City, you could be surrounded by like 100,000 people and still feel alone. So just because I'm in a bar surrounded by a bunch of people doesn't mean I'm there with them. I'm by myself with a bunch of people who are in the room. You know what I mean? Like anywhere else, like there's such a distinction. Like if you go to the mall and there's people there, like, oh, I'm with people. But like New York is like, no, there's no people here. Like especially if you're in a train.
Everyone's just getting their shit
Yeah,
and
like,
leaving.
That's how I try. I feel like that's what the same way that you like zone out, like zoom out or whatever. Like I'm just kind of like I'm the only one here. Nobody else really matters around.
See,
me.
It's almost like the
can't
New York
say that.
mentality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Living here my entire life, I'm just kind of like in that. Like you walk with people down the street, like you don't really see them. Like
See, that's
they don't see you either.
Because Axel and I have talked about this. Like, I think the opposite of that. Like, I always like zone in on people. You know.
Like if I'm on the bus or the train, like if I'm bored and I want to like be people watching, I'm like, all right, like who's that? Who's this? Who's that? But usually I'm just like I'm on this thing myself. I gotta go where I gotta go. This is just a means to an end. Or like if I'm in a room that's crowded, like like I sort of like pick and choose who I decide to like perceive. Like there could be people, But if you don't do exactly what you did in this, like, you don't really see them. Because if you didn't decide to stop and, like, notice those other people, or they didn't, like, send them a drink, you would have just been at the bar and not noticed them.
But how do you not notice them?
I understand it's a blonde chick with a Ninja Turtles shirt, so it's hard to not notice that. But I mean, the same way that you were in the other bar and didn't think anybody was worth like remembering.
Because it's not even about that. It's just like I couldn't.
You can't remember anybody in that first bar.
Well, that's the thing. Like I zoned in like the table of people talking. That's the thing. It was just a bunch of circles of people.
Exactly,
talking.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the circle is the rest of New York City.
That's the thing. Like I couldn't. You couldn't hear anything. You couldn't like.
Yeah.
There wasn't any way to like even start to figure out what was going on. You know.
Well, when you go out, do you wear like headphones and stuff?
If I'm going to work and back, I typically do. Or
I feel
sometimes
like that's,
if I'm going for a walk, but
that's another thing too, like to way to zone out the rest of.
Well, because sometimes
I try to like take off my headphones from now on, like even when I'm on the subway.
It's so much.
Or even at the gym,
Exactly.
even though they play the same fucking songs every single time at the gym that I've memorized them at this point, you're stopping interactions from happening.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like living in New York City, like Dom just said, like it could become overwhelming, and so like that's why I'll put the headphones on because I need to kind of try to feel alone, you know, like because otherwise
I disagree.
it's too much.
Like the city already feels super alone, so I want to take off the headphones so maybe something can happen.
That's strange.
I don't know. I sometimes like feel bombarded.
But yeah, that's exactly what I said. You're in a city surrounded by people and you feel alone. Like the people who are around you don't matter, you know.
But they could.
They could. There's a possibility, but it's like even though you're surrounded by all these people, like you're still alone. You're still in yourself until you like reach out to somebody.
Can I tell you something that happened to me the other day? It was kind of creepy.
What, John?
Actually, it was yesterday.
Whoa.
So it's weird because something similar had happened to me a couple of years ago when I was with you.
Who's you?
Axel.
Oh, I thought it was me. I was like, what? We did something together?
So yesterday, I was at 42nd Street stop, coming back from work. And I'm trying, I was exhausted. Like, I hadn't slept much the night before, and I was just not feeling great. I was just really tired. And so, like, one of the, the R train comes. I don't get on the R. So, like, I'm trying to, like, move out of the way of people.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I'm, like, trying to find my spot to stand, waiting for the next train. And so as I was like trying to maneuver things and I wasn't feeling well, I was tired, so I wasn't as fast at things. Mm-hmm. I felt like something hit like the back of my foot. So I thought, did I like trip someone? Mm-hmm. But I looked around and like everyone just kept walking. So I'm like, I guess if I did, it's fine. And so then like the train leaves and like I find a wall that I can lean against. Like, oh, thank God, I can just lean here for a while. And I have my headphones on. And then some guy with headphones on also walks up and like stands like right next to me. And but I'm thinking like, maybe he's just waiting for the train too. But he's a little bit too close. Yeah. And he looks at me and he's kind of giving me this look of like anger. Yeah. Like I want to fuck you up. And so like I kind of like leaned out a little bit. But then he started, like, just, like, walking a little further and, like, pacing a little. But then he came back to me, and he took his headphones off, and, like, as a signal for me to do so, too. Like, maybe he just wants to ask for directions or something. Maybe I'm misinterpreting things. And so I take my headphones off, and he's like, hey, I think you just hit me. And I felt, like, this fear, so I didn't want to say that I felt something. So I just went, when? And he's like, just now. And I said, well, I didn't realize. Sorry, man. And he's like, oh, what? And he just, like, walks away. But then he put his headphones on and he kept, like, looking back at me, and it looked like he might have been like mumbling to himself. And I'm like, oh fuck. So I was like on
crazy.
guard the rest of the like trip. But like
Hashtag people in New York City.
How long were you on the trip with him for?
I don't know. I know that he got on one end of the car and I was on the other end.
Oh, you just
And
got like.
I had like I put my back to like the the door that goes in between the cars. So like I wanted to have like full vision. Like just make sure
You're not coming at me.
But like I was thinking about like why did I lie and say like I didn't feel anything, but it was just because I think like I got that sense like if I did admit some culpability, the guy like might fucking push me on the track or some shit. Like it was scary.
That's why you just don't engage. You just keep your headphones on.
Yeah.
But yeah, admittedly on the subway, usually it's bad news.
But do you remember a couple of years ago something similar happened with you and me coming back? Where like some guy was like, "Hey dude, you just tripped me." And I this time I really legitimately didn't feel anything. And like, "Oh, sorry man." Cuz like in New York City, people are constantly bumping into me and knocking into me and I don't even think about it anymore. But this guy was like sweating and he was like, "Yo, man, you can't fucking do that." And I'm like, "Sorry, man, I didn't do it on purpose if I did it."
Yeah.
It's like, "Yeah, but you can't do that. Like, you just tripped me." And like, I don't know. I literally said, "I don't know what you want me to say." I don't remember doing it. I didn't know I did it.
Yeah.
If I
just
did, I'm sorry.
Just
And like,
apologize.
and he's like,
Sorry, bro, even though I don't know what I did.
Sorry, nothing
I don't know why I'm
happened.
telling all these stories tonight of like being a dude in general. Somebody's gonna try to pick a fight with you. Like it's so weird.
That's
Like
why
even if
You
you're
have a
me,
penis, you deserve it.
yeah. Like even if you're me, who doesn't like is such a non-confrontational like person, like especially on the Long Island Railroad, the drunk train.
Oh,
People
man.
will try to pick a
Yeah.
fight with you.
That's bad.
When there's a baseball game.
Oh God, yeah. Jesus, dude. So women talk about getting harassed, but men get a little bit of that too, of just like men that want to kick your ass for no reason.
Yo.
Get into a random fight. Last time I was on the LIRR, there was like a big Met game happening, and I actually made friends with the guy.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That was trying to kill you.
No. Well, maybe, I don't know.
You're like, "Hey, bro, let's think this through." You became best
Enjoy the
friends.
game, bro.
Yeah. Have a good one.
But yeah, it's just like one story of maybe like you shouldn't zone in,
Yeah, exactly. That's why New York trains you not to pay attention to anyone around you. Like, I was standing on the corner one time trying to cross the street, and this random dude, like, walks right in front of me and stands, like, super close. But he's also trying to cross the street, and I'm just standing there, like,
That's
okay,
weird.
like, this guy's really close, but we're both going to cross the street. So he's going to start walking, it doesn't matter. So he turns around, and I have my headphones blasting, and he's like, "The hell are you doing?" And I don't hear him, and I'm like, "All right, whatever, I'm just gonna cross the street." And he gets in my face. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You fucking gay? You fucking gay? Why are you standing so close to me? I'm fucking gay." And he starts, and then I'm like, "No,
he did it
I'm
because
not."
he
Like,
wanted to start a fight.
yeah, I'm like, "I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying to cross the street." And he's like coming at me like, "Fuck," and I'm like, "All right, man, like, whatever, have a good day." And I just walk away, and he's still like trying to come after me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just some people are just crazy, and you can't say anything to them because they just want to be in that mindset. That's why I'm like, I don't know how the hell you get into a place where you can be in New York City and be like, everyone's my friend.
When I'm drunk.
like, not even when I'm drunk. When I'm drunk, I'm like, who's gonna come after me? Like,
That's kind of felt that way in Italy.
What?
You feel like you want to talk to everybody, and I don't know.
Half of them are picking your pockets. Like,
No, we never ran into that.
Nobody.
Never ran into the
Well,
pickpocket.
I was like walking around with my hands in my pockets because I keep hearing things, people saying that.
Like, ever since we came back from Italy, I kind of wanted to take that travel mentality and put it back into New York. Like, oh, I should talk to people. I should trust people. Because when you're in Italy, you realize, wow, people actually, I don't know, seem to care about each other.
Well, people that are not, like, born in New York.
Yeah.
Like, people who are born in New York, no.
I keep forgetting that, like,
Most of the time, they're the worst people.
I don't know. Come on, man. I don't know, man. I feel like.
But I feel like New York
gets a bad.
It's
rep.
easy to forget that we're in a very unique
New York,
place.
New York trains you to be a certain way, like I am. Like, do not like associate with anybody around you, or to be like very aggressive.
When
like,
you have such a condensed population, you know, you have a lot of crazy people.
Yeah,
like
but
legitimately
also,
out there people that aren't fully in reality.
Yeah. Also, it's the mentality that you have to constantly be on edge to protect yourself for whoever's gonna come after you.
Well, yeah.
Like that's a big New York thing, because a lot of other places, like you're in your car, you're in your house, you're in your job. Like there's no like in between mode where you have to be afraid or defending yourself. Like New York is just kind of like
just ignore everyone.
there is an aspect of like fear that should always be instilled in you.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And if you live in a better area, yeah, you don't have to deal with that, but
no matter where you are, you hear stories every now and then of somebody that just pushed a random person onto the train tracks, you know? Like, I remember years ago, I don't remember what train station it was. There was this old Chinese couple, I think, and, like, the guy was, like, in his 80s, and, like, some random person just walked by him and pushed him into the train, and his 80-year-old something wife watched him get killed by a train.
yeah.
But they got like security footage of the guy, and I think that there might have been a woman that pushed him too, or something like that. But they got the person that pushed him. But it's just random crazy shit, you know, like this could happen anywhere. Or people a guy in a fucking car could just drive over people in Times Square, which happened like a year or two ago, you know.
Yeah. See, beware.
But it could also happen in Toronto now, you know, like fuck.
Toronto, yeah.
It's not just New York.
People are crazy.
I feel like we should.
Just like any big city, I feel.
I feel like we should all be or act a little more naive. Better things will happen.
Well, yeah.
I don't know about that. I think we're talking the opposite.
Yeah, we are
Less
talking
naive.
about that, but it's like also you can't live in fear.
Right.
You have to like just live.
You can't live in fear, but you gotta be open to new experiences.
Yeah, you have to be open to making friends.
The
and
other
not
day-
assuming everyone's out to get you.
The other day.
Also, how long have we been going? I don't know.
I don't know. Why don't you check?
I tried to. I can't. I feel like we've been
can't
going
do it.
since like 10 and it's like 11.
Alright, I'm gonna end it with this then. That the other day, Victor and I were talking, and I was like, you know, like, I'm fully aware that I could die at any moment, you know, and like that makes me nervous and scared sometimes. And he's like trying to cover me. He's like, John, what you're not realizing is we could all die at every moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, thanks for calming me down about that.
But
yeah.
it's like that like awareness of that. Like I get that same thing. Like sometimes I just start bugging out. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to like die someday. I'm gonna have to be in that moment to be like, all right, this is the end.
And you might not even be aware of it.
And not even like dying, like how I'm dying. Just the fact that it's gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna be in that moment at some point, and I have to like.
But you might not even be aware of it when it happens.
But yeah, just the fact that I could have to be aware of it, like that freaks me out.
What's that Race the Sun quote? Death is unexpected, but inevitable.
Yeah.
Unexpected or expected. I feel like it's worse if it's expected.
Yeah, that.
But like, yeah, I'm dying.
It's like
now.
torture.
I don't know.
I've
I've always
to come to terms with this moment.
maybe I'm wrong, but I've always whenever asked that question of like, would you want to know? I always feel like I would prefer to know that it was happening. So
Well,
I
it
can
depends
just
how-
so I can wrap shit up in my head, you know, like
So you can finish it on your bucket list.
Yeah, it depends how ready you are to die. Because if you're not ready to die, that's a very scary moment. But if you're like,
It's a
okay,
sad moment.
I'm okay with this. Like how
But-
some older people die. They're like, all right, I had a good life.
But what was weird
Other
is
people are like, no, I'm not done yet. Then you don't like. It's just kind of like.
Then you're freaking out.
What was
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
for me, like, real quick, is years ago I got in a car accident, and I think I probably had blacked out when it happened. And it was a realization because, like, I remember it was just a thing of, like, all of a sudden being aware that the car in front of me was too close, and I was about to turn and trying to avoid it, and then that realization, I'm not going to avoid this. I'm going to hit that car. And then there was nothing, and then there was loudest crunching sounds I've ever heard in my life with like the car. And then it looked like, you know, my cell phone had been like here, you know, and like it looked like it was floating, you know, which is probably my car was like fucking turning.
Damn, this is like the Transporter 2 or something.
And then like the next thing I knew, I was lifting my head away from like the steering wheel, and like I saw a guy in front of me and all that stuff. But it was that realization of just like, that could happen where I could have just blacked out and just never woken up. And realizing that like, when it was happening, there was not a thought in my head that I wasn't going to get through it. Like, it was just like, it could happen so quickly where you're just like, oh, it could have just been like, I'm not going to avoid that car. And that would have been the last thought I had in my head. Because then it would just be black. It would just been darkness. It would just been over, you know? And that was scary to me, thinking back of like, I could have died and like not even know that it was going to happen. And that's why I feel like I'd prefer to somehow know that it was going to happen, just so like I could wrap up all the little shit in my head and be like, all right, well, I guess this is it. That's it. End of it. You know, like have some closure beforehand, you know? I don't know. It's
That's
stupid.
crazy. I don't think I'd be able to do that. Like, no matter how hard I would try to be like, all right, this is done now. Like, that's great. But like, I would not be able to do that. That would like take forever.
Yeah, I'd rather not know.
You know,
I didn't like the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna hit this car and then that would be it.
Yeah, but I feel like you the way that you think you'd be able to wrap it up, knowing that, okay, this is about to be done, like I need to wrap it up. Like, I'll be like, I know I need to wrap it up, but I still can't wrap it up, no matter how much time I have. Like, and then the not being able, like having the amount of time to wrap it up and still not being able to wrap it up and still not being okay with it, you know? Like, I feel like there's just a bunch of things.
You feel anxiety from that, not being able to finish your goals.
You have to just like be able to rationalize it and be like, okay, this is okay that this is not happening. This is okay that. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to.
I'd rather not think about it at all. Just let it happen.
This is obviously hypothetical, and if I'm really in that situation, maybe I'll change my mind and wish that I wasn't, but that's what I've thought, anyway.
To wrap it all up, living in New York equals think about death.
And living in New York, if you get drunk and go into a bar, you might almost get hit in the face.
Make something exciting happen.
Also, in conclusion, if you're Axel, go make out with two pigs in a night.
So you can tell guys about it and talk about it on
bro.
YouTube. You can talk about it on YouTube.
Talk about it. Relive it
Two
on a
girls,
nightly
if
basis.
you're out there and you made out with this guy,
no.
hit us up.
I'm sorry.
Come through for the second round.
Oh. Alright, so this has been NYC Geek Society. Like, share, subscribe, hit that little bell thing or whatever.
Hit the bell.
And you know, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell the two girls that Axel made out with.
Tell them to like and subscribe.
Don't dislike.
Only Axel. Tell them to like and subscribe to Axel.
And you know, do shit.
Yeah, get drunk.
Alright, NYC. Geek out.
Woo! All right.
Cut it.
Alright. Alright. It's always alright with John.